This task tip will discuss the programming of the database section of the Task Administrator with the report options that affect specific reports. The Task Administrator contains the information about the call center that a manager will monitor and use for reports. In addition to setting up the PBX resources, additional reporting parameters must also be programmed to display information that is unique to your particular business. These settings affect how certain reports display and interpret call center data. To begin, click on the Administrator button on the Task console. This will open the Administrator application to the database mode. Click the Report Options button in the main control panel. The Report Options page contains two tabbed areas, Display and Generation. The Display area is where you can set the properties for the interval-based reports. The site name is the name of your company and appears at the top of the printed reports. The site name is automatically programmed using information from the task licensing, but can be changed to meet your needs. The first day of the work week drop-down menu allows you to set the first day for weekly reports. Use this setting to define your 7-day work week. For example, if your call center is open from Monday through Friday, set the first day of the week to Monday, so the weekend days, Saturday and Sunday, are at the bottom of the report. The daily reporting period sets the times of day that the interval-based reports, by quarter hour, by half hour, and by hour, will display. The default is a 24-hour period, but if your call center is only open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., setting these specific times in the display area will make your time-based reports more concise and easier to read. This setting does not limit the amount of data that Task will collect, and if you find that you are missing call counts, you can edit these settings to make sure your reports are showing all of your call activity. When you are ready to save your changes, click the Update button. Click the Generation tab to access specific report parameters. In the General section, check the Credit and ACD call transferred back to the same queue as a single call checkbox to make sure the call counts in the queue reports are not inflated. If an agent was to transfer an answered ACD call back to the queue it came from, this setting will count it as a single offered and answered call. The time taken for the first agent to talk to the caller, the transfer time back to the queue, and the time taken for the second agent to talk to the caller will all be counted as talk time. With this checkbox disabled, the next time the call is answered from the queue, it is credited as a second call. Enabling the checkbox for Exclude Internal Calls, including those calls that originated on a trunk, will cause the reports to only include calls that originated on a trunk. All internal calls are excluded from the reports. If local calls can be made to and from your business without dialing a local area code, check the proper local area code under Select Area Codes from your local calling area. This will enable the extension call detail and the queue by area code reports to properly determine and label the location of calls dialed without an area code. First select the country code from the drop-down box, then check the proper local area code in the list. Notice that the selected area code moves to the top of the list. Settings under Trunk and Queue allow the customer to determine the content of these specific reports. Under the Trunk section, set the trunk time to answer to the maximum amount of time a trunk should take to connect a call. If the percentage of calls answered in this time is very low, it may indicate that one or more trunks are experiencing technical problems. The Short Talk Time setting allows you to determine the number of calls on a trunk that have very short durations. This can also indicate problems with the trunk or trunk groups. The Queue section allows you to set options for the queue and queue group reports. The value of the talk time distribution interval determines the maximum talk time the queue by talk time distribution report can display. The default value of 1 allows you to graph calls up to 100 seconds in length. Increase this number to fit the call center data. For instance, setting the value to 6 will allow you to track calls of up to 600 seconds or 10 minutes in length. The short abandon threshold time identifies calls that abandon within a very short period of time. Calls that abandon within the time set here are considered short abandon calls in the Q and Q group reports and are ignored when calculating service percentages for the queue. The default value of 6 seconds is a suitable time for most call centers and rarely needs to be adjusted. If you have made changes to the report options, be sure to click the Update button to save those changes. If you have selected your local area code in the General section, you must restart the Task Information Server in the Task Console for the settings to take effect. You now know how to set up the report options in the Task Administrator.